Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Velvet Revolution, with myself, Ben Rice, and Dave Noble. Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
Morning, afternoon, evening,
Who
dependent
knows?
dependent on where you're at.
We are not time specific.
Yeah, we're timeless. Always timeless. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, how am I feeling today? Vanilla.
Vanilla.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Um, it's not vanilla in the sense that you might use the word vanilla. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Neapolitan.
Neapolitan.
I'm probably feeling Neapolitan.
Okay.
But vanilla is what comes to mind. Basically, like I always check in saying, yeah, I'm really good, right? You
Yeah,
know, them people that always say I'm fine.
yeah, yeah. Which we've talked about a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine. You know, it's like, yeah, you're. There's more to it than I'm just fine,
yeah.
in my opinion. But I genuinely do when I say, yeah, I'm really good. You know, blah 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 blah. It's normally because I just am, right?
Hmm.
Um, why have I said I'm vanilla? Is because I'm vanilla with that. That's what I mean. It's just like unless I feel really angsty, stressed, down, you know, maybe a bit feeling sad or lonely or
Mm.
whatever, um, or afraid or, angsty, if I just feel good, that's my sort of like default setting now, which is amazing if you really think about it.
Yeah,
Surely that's what I was just striving for. Um, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's that thing of, oh, I want to be like an astronaut or something. It's like I now know the answer to that is I just want to feel good. I want to feel happy.
yeah,
That's the answer that I now know would be the right answer.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. If I had a young child that I was raising, my son, daughter, whatever.
A young Jedi.
Yeah, a young Jedi, young little maverick. And I said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" If they said to me, "Daddy, I want to just be happy," I'd be like, "Yes, high five! Yeah, I've taught you well." You know what I mean? So, excuse me. That's what I mean by vanilla.
Hmm.
It's just like I'm good. You know why? Because it's my default setting, unless I've got a reason to be otherwise. Now, rewind to past formative years, um, before I got to that point and worked towards that point and built it, and I had to water the garden, so to speak, to get the flowers to bloom.
Hmm.
Um, my default setting was I'm fucked, but I'm gonna say I'm fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, that's my check-in today. How are you?
uh, I am. If we're using the same barometer of check-in, then I am mint choc chip. Uh,
Chopped chip.
yeah,
I like that. That's a good
yeah.
one.
I'm mint. It's been a week of contrasting uh emotions, I would say. Yeah, started the week really like it was chaos and there was lots of negativity and yeah, and had some tough conversations on Monday, and then we got to by the time we got to Friday, completely flipped the script, and
Is this work related?
both actually, both. There was some personal stuff going on Monday as well, but got to Friday, and yeah, we ended up period five playing cricket in the sunshine, all the kids just chilling out, just being lovely. Staff were
Oh,
in a really positive mood. It was just, yeah, it was a real sort of night and day week.
that's
Um,
that's lovely.
yeah,
You couldn't give it depends where they're at in you got to judge, surely you got to have a bit of discernment to who's going to actually hold a cricket bat,
yeah,
surely.
no, no,
and
it's
and who's bowling. Are they in a good place right now?
yeah, yeah, they're fine, they're fine. I think that yeah, they're yeah, misconceived, bless them. But no, it was a really lovely end to the Friday. and then yesterday just sort of I had one of those weird days where I woke up a little bit groggy and
Mm-hmm.
just felt like I needed just to stay still because I went to the shops to get some food and sort of got in the car and just when you feel a little bit, I don't know if dangerous, the world feels dangerous, and maybe it's just me feeling a bit unsafe, and I just was like, probably shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car and shouldn't be in a supermarket with lots of people. I just got what I needed and then got home and just crashed, which is what I needed, I think. So yeah, feeling
God,
good now, feeling mint choc chip now.
that's brilliant. I just had a flashback to sort of like back in the day, driving down like around the M25 doing like 40 mile an hour in the slow lane. Like just like I should be on this motorway right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, if you know what I mean. Mint choc chip, I like that. That's a really um an amazing abstract way of putting it. I love that. I guess I feel a bit like that actually, rather than I shouldn't have said vanilla, man.
There's a bit bland. I like to see
Yeah,
Neapolitan. I liked that. I like
yeah,
that sort of.
Neapolitan, because it's not, it's the yeah, but they're just words, man. They're just words. Because vanilla's actually really yummy. I like vanilla.
Yeah,
Um, you know, so
it's like a
perspective,
standard. It's a good standard, isn't it?
yeah, perspective as always. If you haven't worked it out yet, stick with it because it's always coming down to perspective. How do you see vanilla? Is it
Mm.
bland or is it actually really yummy? Ah, yeah, I had won't go into it. It's too much in what I've done over the last couple of days, but I've I've had a really nourishing chip chop, chip chop, chop chip. Um, yeah, I've had a really good. I was down on a beach, lying on a rocks, bathing like a walrus, if that's the right
Nice.
term. Um, with some really gentle, earthy people that
Hmm.
um, locals that knew the land, the lay of the land and the ocean. Um, Spear fishermen. Now, some people listening might be like, bastards. No, but for me, understanding the nature,
Hmm.
that we are part of, the all, that nature offers, and we're just part of that food chain. I know I don't want to get into it because might be not just doing it justice, describing it in the right way that they do. But it was just fascinating. I learned so much just watching these guys and ladies go into the ocean, coming out with supper basically,
Mm.
and then we cooked it, and it was amazing. It's a very primitive spiritual process. Fire, water, earth, air, all present.
Nice, nice.
Loved it, man. Loved
Mm.
it. Anyway, so um, what episode are we on?
I believe it's number 9,
Okay.
and I believe it's the letter I. Is that right?
Um,
Yeah, we did hyper last week.
yes, and it's your turn to pick. So I haven't actually pulled the list yet. I vaguely remember we was filling these lists in, weren't we? We had a little, we peppered it with all what we thought should be on it, and there was some stuff that we drew from. We was
Hmm.
inspired by another list that we kind of was inspired by. Um, is there a lot on there?
Yeah,
Is there?
yeah,
Let's
there's
put it up.
tons. So
I wouldn't have thought there would be.
no, I was thinking I would be a
I
bit
I
tricky.
just thought of ignoramus. What's that? Is that a word?
Ignoramus. Isn't that someone's being really, really ridiculous?
Is that on there?
Ignoramus.
Is that
Um,
on there?
no, you can put it on.
Do you think we should put that on there?
Yeah,
How do you pronounce it?
isn't it ignoramus? IG.
Ignoramus. What did I say? Ignoramus.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
You're
one of those. It's like any words. Like you say them enough times, they all sound odd, don't they?
mm,
Right. On I, we've got intrigue, irrational,
Mm.
irritable, insatiable, inspire, insecure, insincere, impatient, isolate, irresponsible, inconsiderate, ill-tempered, impulsive, indecisive, indifferent, inflexible, intolerant, intuitive, and intolerable.
There's a there's a lot there.
There is.
I mean, that they're every single one of them is like is so much in every single one of those. Intolerant and intolerable's pretty similar, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of crossovers as always.
Mm. Where do I want to go with that? Uh,
I mean, even if we were to cover all of the eyes on one season of doing this podcast,
yeah.
that's a whole season, just that lot.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna be here for a few years, mate. If we
Yeah,
if we keep going around A to Z.
yeah. And if people had more, right, I'm gonna go inconsiderate
Oh, okay. All right, all right. Why inconsiderate?
because
Why be so inconsiderate to choose inconsiderate? I'm joking.
why am I feeling inconsiderate? I'm not feeling inconsiderate, but I am. I watched a movie on Friday night.
Hmm.
I'm late to the party here. I think it was 2017. It was released. Midsummer. Have you seen Midsummer?
Um, ah, what?
It's got Florence Pugh in it, and it looks a bit Wicker Man-y. It's got that sort of vibe to it about a sort of cult
I haven't
in,
seen it.
and I hadn't watched it because one, I don't like a lot of horror, and two, I'd kind of got it in my head that it was just a sort of modern remake of Wicker Man. Uh, but in it, it's basically a breakdown of a relationship, but done through a Swedish cult. These American sort of university students go to Sweden to take part in a midsummer event, like a sort of maypole dance type thing, but it goes on over 3-4 days, and yeah, and they sort of take part in all these bizarre rituals that this sort of little community, this little cult, sort of do, and but at the heart of it really is the fact that this bloke that she's with, it's him and his mates that are going, and he kind of invites her because she has this horrific well, basically her parents and her sister die, and she's sort of struggling with all this going on, and they've got this really sort of codependent relationship where he's trying to get out of it, but he's being really inconsiderate, and he's being really weak in that by not telling her that he's not really fully in. They're kind of just leading each other on, and it sort of plays out in this Swedish village, which, I mean, there's some really dark bits in it. There's some really quite
Is it a
violent
horror?
things.
Is it a horror?
It's more a psychological horror,
Okay, right.
but there's just some really powerful moments. It's one of those films that you watch and well, for me, I've watched this film and it's just completely, I've blew my mind. And the gory bits I can kind of take or leave. It's more the fact that you're watching these two people. It's very trippy. Like there's
Mhm,
lots of taking little, drink this, and suddenly they're off their minds, and eat these, and
mhm.
so that's all playing out. So the screen's moving quite a lot. There's bits of the screen that are moving, but basically what you're watching them fall apart as a relationship, and it's done so viscerally. It's done through like the language that they're all speaking, and they sing a lot, and they sort of mirroring each other's emotions. There's this incredible bit where she's on all fours, like howling like an animal because she's so upset at what's happening, and this group of women are around her, and they're mirroring her noises, and it's just so powerful. It's really incredible. um
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not like a happy ending sort of thing. It's not like a, oh look, they all live happily ever after. It's quite sort of leaves you a bit like, is that right? Should I be happy that's happened? Um,
It sounds quite jarring.
yes, yeah, yeah. But it's really left quite a imprint in my head. I
Do,
def-
do, do you feel that has left such an imprint in your head that it's, it's influenced you to choose Inconsiderate?
yeah, I
Do you
think it
reckon?
has. Yeah,
When did you watched it last night, did you say?
Friday night. I watched it
Friday
Friday. That's
night.
2 nights ago. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I just think it's an amazing piece of filmmaking.
Well, there you go.
Um,
To anyone listening, go and check it out and have a trip, see what's going on.
I think most people have watched it because I said because
Oh,
it's one of those films that's been around for ages and it's been a big deal, but I just never got around to watching it. But yeah, it really made me think about uh, that sort of ability we have as human beings to stay in something and not be considerate of other people. It's a selfishness.
and our own needs,
Yeah, yeah,
because there's a inconsideration to our own needs, right?
yeah. And he's sitting there at the beginning with his mates. There's four. I think it's four of them, and one of them is sort of saying, this girlfriend of yours is a nightmare. She's pulling in all these different directions. She's constantly, she's so needy. And he's like, yeah, I know, I know, I want to sort of leave, but what happens if I change my mind later on? Or it's sort of like it's like keeping someone there for the sake of it because you haven't got anything else.
Okay, so sorry, I'm interrupting you. Carry on.
No. And it really made me feel about how relationships play out because we're so fearful of maybe being alone, maybe of not finding anything else, of not finding anything that's better, that
Yeah.
we are very inconsiderate because it's painful to rip the plaster off. It's never nice to end a relationship in that sense. It's never nice to have that moment where you go, look, I'm really not feeling this. This isn't me. I need to leave. And that moment is going to be really raw and really, really painful, but you don't do it. Or
Yeah.
you need to do it for the good of the relationship, the good of both of you, so
Hmm.
you can move on. But so often we don't.
Yeah. And what comes up for me is separation anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking, I relate, when you was talking hypothetically maybe about the whole, is that the right word, term I'm using, towards um, if you were in a relationship and you were in these circumstances that you've just um encountered in this fictional piece of work, the movie that you watched, if it was in your own life. So anyone listening, you know, do you relate? Have you ever been in that sort of situation in your life, relationship? Honestly, I know I have. No brainer. I'm not gonna, I'm always very honest about things, so I'm not gonna not be now. I relate 100%. Um, so I always say this, why are we wasting their time first and foremost? Why are we wasting someone's time?
Mm-hmm.
And I have done that, you know. Um, it's all part of the um, journey. Do we need to, do we wake up? uh, Are we born and go about our whole life and not ever get into something where we're wasting someone's time or ours? Do we just get it right straight off the bat? We're like, oh, I've never been inconsiderate to someone else and or myself. I've never
Mm.
I've never neglected my needs or someone else's needs just because I'm being selfish because I'm afraid of um, there's so many things you can bring into the mix.
Mm.
Fear of missing out, fear of rejection, abandonment, all these insecurities that I believe a lot of humans uh, encounter in
Mm.
life. Unless you're someone, I mean, please do drop us a line if you are. I say that if you are someone that's like, well, I'm just not, because it's really interesting to know if people don't, it's good to know there are people out there that just are like, well, I just never really, I don't relate. I've never really held that attitude of what is the point of wasting someone else's time being inconsiderate or my own and neglecting my own needs? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Have I just
Yeah.
riffed completely too much there?
No, no, I think that there is well, I hope there are people out there that are like that. Um, but
There
I
must
feel
be.
I remember, yeah, there must be, but I
Or,
feel,
or maybe not. Or maybe not.
yeah, I mean, I just think about, I watch relationships play out constantly in school, and you know, there's very few relationships I can see lasting from the age of 14 to 80. Um,
The Notebook.
the Notebook. What's the Notebook?
You're a film buff, man.
Oh yeah, that film. Okay.
Yeah, the codependent one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I I don't yeah, I don't I think we're all sort of working out where we fit and where we and how we want to coexist with people right from the start. But I see so many people uh you know being in a relationship where it's not what they want, or they're not getting what they need. There's a beautiful bit in the film, and I love this. This is the line that stuck
And
with me.
are we back to the Midsummer?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
he says, the one of the characters says to the Florence Pugh character, "Does he feel like home? Does he make you feel safe?"
Ooh,
And she doesn't answer because she doesn't want to admit that no,
yeah,
he doesn't.
yeah. That's a really good marker.
Yeah, and I think we are conditioned to be with other people. I think that's human nature, is that we want
Yeah.
to be in a relationship, and we want
Mm-hmm.
to we want to connect with people, and with one other special person. But I don't know, we do that with consideration, with skill, and like you said, we're inconsiderate of other people's feelings, but we're also inconsiderate of our own, without. And I don't always know that it's because we do it we do it deliberately, but we do it sort of unconsciously, because we're
Right.
not gone.
No, no, continue.
Because I
Continue.
don't think we're conscious of what we want at an early stage.
Right. Okay. So I'm staring at inconsiderate, right, in the Bible of words, right?
Hmm.
Which I'm actually, the more we do this, I'm starting to maybe think this isn't like what we thought it was, because
Okay.
it's so blooming, institutionalized and old and bit, it's British, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what do we know in the grand scheme of things, really? We know a little bit. Um, Not that I don't want to insult the people that have put this together. I mean, it's an incredible feat of anyway, right? So we need to. I personally think we should. I think there's a book in what we're doing here. I feel like
Okay.
we should collate. You said about doing a manifesto. I think we
Mm.
should do our own little A to Z encyclopedia.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be nice.
I don't know why I'm putting it out there. 'Cause some mother, oh, nearly double-barreled. Some fucker out there is probably going to nick that idea now. We'll
Mm.
leave it out, right? Because we're doing it first. Or maybe it's already been done. Who knows? Right. Okay. So, um, inconsiderate, right? Thoughtlessly, right? That's why I pounced on you when you were saying what you're saying, because you were saying about unconsciously, unskillfully,
Mm.
without thought, right? Thoughtlessly causing hurt or trouble to other people. So there is an unskillfulness to it, and there is an unconsciousness to it.
Yeah. And that thoughtlessness, the inconsideration of other people's feelings. Yeah, I think I like the idea that, well, I don't like the idea, but I like where the way it's saying that it is the unconscious, thoughtless way of being, and it's almost like we sleepwalk. We get into a place where we stop thinking and we stop being present and don't appreciate where that journey's been. And I know I've done it a number of, well, not even a number of times. It's embarrassing, and I am, it's part of who I am, unfortunately, in terms of how I've conducted myself in relationships. And I'd say I've been very thoughtless a number of times, more than I can recount, because I wasn't aware, I wasn't conscious of who I was or what I needed. And so it's almost like you use someone else uh as a way of working out what it is you need, and that can take 4 weeks, it can take 4 years. I mean, yeah, usually with me, I know I'm an avoidant. I know I will uh go into a relationship thinking it's everything I want, and then very quickly, normally, I'm like, oh my god, I need to get out of here, I can't cope with this. The analogy I use is that, when you stroke a cat, and after about 10 minutes or so, the cat will like go and sort of
Yeah,
go for you.
fuck off,
Yeah,
leave me alone.
because you've got the static. That's kind of how I feel in a relationship. And I don't, that's why I've made the choice recently to not be in relationships, because I know it's, I need to do that work on me,
Yeah, I love
and
this, man.
work out why my why my fur goes static after a certain period of time.
I love this. I love your. This is great, man. Your analogy. I love that. I'm gonna use that. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant analogy, and I relate. I also admire, respect, salute your um, honesty
Hmm.
and your willingness and openness with that to, share it with me and other people. So I salute you. It's a great, great. Um, Not only is it a gift that you can do that towards yourself, it's considerate towards yourself. You're honoring your own needs, to recognize that I need to, because I think, being inconsiderate is kind of like abandonment.
Hmm.
Like you're abandoning self-abandonment if you're inconsiderate to yourself. And there's it's definitely selfish.
Yeah.
There's a selfishness to being inconsiderate. 100%.
Yeah.
It's at the core of being inconsiderate. Is you're a selfish little swine,
Mm.
you little fucker. Sort your shit out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're anything like me, which you are, correct me if I'm wrong. How many times have you heard someone challenge you on that?
Mm.
And this is why you, like me, and many people, and people can hopefully can relate to this. And if you don't, sort your shit out. um, like, when you have people recognize that you're being inconsiderate and selfish, and they call you out on that, what do we do with that? It always comes down to this. This is the theme that we are covering in these, is okay, where's the root? Let's go to the root, right? Where's our part in this? Where's our part in this? And what's your motive for doing the thing that you're being called out on, right?
Yeah.
Do you own it? Are you accountable? Do you take responsibility for the things that people are calling you out on? Or do you think they're just picking on you? They're just moaning for the sake of moaning? Do you think they're just nagging for the sake of nagging? Or is it possible? Is it possible that you might actually have a role to play in all of this? And there's a part, your part in this, that's been noted oh so kindly by our loved ones that we're being a little inconsiderate little bastard.
Hmm.
sort your shit out.
Yeah.
So, I had countless people over the years, you know, archives of it that all pointed to that, We've got the evidence.
Hmm.
The evidence is undeniable. I say this to the young mavericks when I'm working with them. I always say this. You're speaking to me, mate, because there's a fucking issue. We're not talking because everything's gravy. There's a problem. And then it's like, yeah, and it's getting them to join the dots, to understand that they've got a part in it.
Yeah.
They're not just the scapegoat. And yeah, of course, sometimes young people are the scapegoat for, issues in life. It's true, it is. It's just part of a lot of young people, especially at your school, you can't talk about it, but there's a lot of people, young people, who are scapegoats for other people's shizzle,
Mm.
for other people's inconsiderations and selfishness. Sometimes the young people are the scapegoat. They're the problem.
Yeah.
But why are they acting out in that way?
Mm.
Why do they feel that way? Why are they angry? Did they just wake up and go, I'm going to be a fucking angry, raging typhoon today? Where's that anger coming from? You know, I've really gone somewhere with this. I don't know where I'm going.
Well, I know where my head's going now. I mean, it feels to me like you're saying what I'm pulling from what you're saying now is this sort of cyclical nature we live in, and if as adults we are inconsiderate of our young people, then our young people become inconsiderate adults themselves, and
Mm,
so we end up in this cyclical world where anger generates anger, and
mhm,
sadness generates sadness, and it's like we need to well we need to break that cycle, and
yeah.
we need young people to be considerate of themselves first.
Mhm,
Like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I sitting in this anger? Why am I so resentful? Why can I not recognize my part? And I just wonder how we get, because it's so difficult with teenagers to get them to talk and open up in that way, and to really be conscious of where their stories have come from,
mhm,
and how much of a part they play in their own story.
mhm.
And I think at the moment it feels almost like it's easier to see the story playing out as an external factor. It's a sort of, it's almost happening over there, and you know I'm just watching it almost,
Yeah, yeah,
rather than I can be conscious and I can be considerate and I can really take control of this story. It's easier to watch the story unfold and not be conscious as
yeah,
part of it.
yeah, yeah. And it's really hard. Um, these fleeting moments, as I would put it, of consciousness, pure present time awareness, you know, which I found really hard to achieve for many reasons. Take your pick. So many distractions. Um, when you, my friend Sonia, who does a lot of work in the space of safeguarding young people online for the great foundation that she set up called the Ryan Foundation, um, and it's all about just combating. Child terrorism is the words to use because that's what it is online. For young, vulnerable young people. Um, she says, in her words, it's like as soon as you put a device in someone's, young person's hand, it's going to consume every part of their waking day. Their attention is going to go
Mm.
into that, unless they don't, obviously, you know, unless they're, feral feral young people that are just running around, in the fields and the
Old
forest.
school, you mean? Like we
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah. Before
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had these walking around with these computers in our
yeah, yeah.
pockets, So it makes sense to me. Logically, think about it, people. If you're young people that you want them to be present, right? You want them to be present. You want them to listen to you so you can teach them, right? Because it's all about us elders teaching young people so they can grow up and to give into life and not being considerate little fuckers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my pipeline of having to deal with these cases is so great because of what we're talking about. And they become the scapegoat
Yeah.
because it's like, you don't listen. And then and all this stuff. It's like, well, what do you expect? You've given them a freaking smart device since they were sort of like 4 years old.
Mm.
Like, what do you expect? Of course, they're not going to be present. Of course, they're going to like be in this self-centered, in self absorbed hemisphere,
Yeah.
vortex, matrix, rabbit hole
And how often?
of oblivion.
Yeah, oblivion. How often do you see families? And this isn't just in schools, this is everywhere. How often do you see families now? And it because people go, oh, look at the teenagers, they're all sitting around not talking to each other on their phones. But how often do you see families doing that? Whether it's a laptop, whether it's a iPad, whether it's a phone, how many times you watch families sitting there and they're all on devices?
Yeah, I mean, this has been going for a while. One of the most amazing things I ever saw, and it was in Australia, I think. I was over in Australia, and it's like there was these two mums.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing, right? It was these two mums with their daughters. They were, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 or something, and they were, really cute little outing. They were. I think we was in some sort of like beach cafe sort of vibes, and it was lovely weather. And mums were busy talking, talk, like they do, and that's great. They're having a catch up, and the two girls had a ball of string,
Mm-hmm.
a ball of wool, sorry, coloured balls of wool, and they were playing with it. And that's what the mums, instead of getting the freaking iPad out or the phone and going, "There you go, girls,"
Mm-hmm.
oh, us mums can have a breather now and have a catch up whilst you two zone out and learn how to be basically self absorbed in a vortex of whatever the hell you're watching or doing on the game or whatever. Getting a bit passionate about this.
Yeah,
It's only because I have to deal with the aftermath of, when they are in their teens and they've got problem behavior.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and a lot of what I have to unravel is, is okay. Let's figure out what skills you've got.
Mm-hmm.
What are your capabilities? What do you think you can work with? Let's see what we're working with here, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that I identify is, you've got a screen addiction, mate,
Mm.
right? So get the ball of wool out. Don't get the iPad out. Get the ball of wool out and let them, if they're going to wrap your leg up or wrap the two mums up with coloured
Mm-hmm.
balls of wool, let them do it. You know what I mean? Let them be, let them explore being in the present moment without having to jazz out and become a humanoid,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I'm very passionate about it. And like I say, it's not me getting on a pedestal saying, you know, I have to really make sure that I'm getting my ball of wool out,
Mm.
metaphorically speaking. I don't think I own a ball of wool in my house, but I've got a lot of things that I can use like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's all about being tactile, isn't it? It's all about getting out of that space because, like I- like you're saying, we all do it. We're all getting sucked into this world, and I think more so than ever now, because of this world, because of this digital world that we exist in. If you're playing out relationships or you're playing out life on these devices, then everything is recorded. So if you've got any sort of stuck record going on in your head, it's not like you might just have the odd photograph of someone that you may have taken 10 years ago. You've got everything. You've got every message, you've got every email, you've got every moment captured, whether it's a photograph or a video, on these devices, so you can relive it constantly. And I just feel it's such an unhealthy way to maintain any sort of relationship,
Mm.
because you're then stuck with one. The other person has this information about you, or the world has this information about you in a way,
Mm.
or it can be given to the world very easily. And I see it happen a lot in the work that I do with the kids at school. Is that, like, do you understand what you're putting out? The moment you put that onto any sort of platform, you understand that everyone can see that,
Mm.
and you understand that's you now. Companies are doing that, aren't they? When you go for an advert, a job now, an interview, then people are checking your socials.
It's batshit crazy, mate.
Yeah, you can't get into America
Look,
without people
yeah.
checking your socials.
I wouldn't want my boss, like, back in the day when I wouldn't want my fucking boss looking at my bloody personal life.
Mm,
Fuck you. Like, I'm coming here to work. I don't want you to know that bit.
yeah,
That's, that's sacred. What I'm
yeah.
doing when I'm not at work is sacred, mate. Um, I mean, look, have we gone too off piece with this? Because we're covering Inconsiderate, but I think it's all interlinked, and obviously where it led, and I think I led us here. I went
Hmm.
down this sort of pathway, but I feel like what it is for me is the Velvet Revolution, what we're doing, the A to Z of human experience. And it's all about unpacking, exploring, dissecting, the introspection, the why.
Mm,
We know the what, and I'm all about the why and maybe
hmm.
how I can, you know, change something. Because I'm all about evolution, right? I am. I'm all about that. I'm all about, like, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to have the best life. Now, come on, everyone. Don't we all just want to have the best life, best experience of our lives possible? We do. That's what everyone's searching for. Going back to the online space, it's like everyone is. Maybe we get into this thing where we're comparing our lives, and that's where gets a bit sticky. That's why I don't do it. I always just worry about what I'm doing in my little world and the people that I care about that are in it. And that's all I care about. Right. And of course, I wouldn't be doing this, no brainer, if I didn't care about the whole, the entirety, the planet, my fellow earthlings. I want to, for me, I didn't set out to do this, you know. I set out just to party. That was my A game. That was my original plan. Is I just want to fucking live hard, live fast, die young. That was my attitude.
Yeah,
Fuck it, it'll be all right. Don't worry
yeah.
about it. Don't worry about it. I'm having the best time of my life, man. Like, I'm just gonna go nuts. You know, have a really good time. Don't worry about the consequences. Don't worry about the future because it's too far ahead. I'm just in the moment, and a lot of young people, you know, that even in your 20s, even in your 30s, it's just like can't really see that part, that future bit. You don't really, unless you do, I didn't. Don't really worry about it too much. I'm just too busy partying, and chasing desire, and chasing all my desires, and there's so many, you know what I mean? So many desires. But ultimately, we all just are striving to have a really good experience, a good time. Hopefully, there's a bit of we experience love. Hopefully, we experience joy, happiness, laughter. You know, shared experiences, and all the good stuff. And we get to experience cultures and different people, or maybe we don't. Maybe we're born in the East End of London. We never leave freaking, Bow,
Yeah.
Bow or something. You know what I mean? Who knows? But we're all striving to have a really excellent experience on our short time that we're here, right?
Yeah. And the only way we can do that is by being considerate of everyone around us. And
Mm.
I was just trying to find that the idea of how you treat yourself is how you treat others. That idea of how considerate you are of yourself is how considerate you are of others, and that idea that how you approach everyone. You meet some people that are just totally self-obsessed and totally inconsiderate of those people around them. The waiter, the person serving them coffee behind the counter. It's just like, they're just I can't even bother to get off my headphones to speak to you. I can't even bother to give you the time of day.
That bugs me,
Yeah.
them fuckers. Yeah.
And I think it's really important that how we want to be treated, is how we work with the people that come into our lives, whether it's a 2-second interaction whilst you buy your coffee, or whether it's a meaningful conversation that you connect with someone for much longer.
I mean, what's come up for me is the most considerate thing for me is to recognize someone else,
Mm,
to see someone,
yeah.
and and to make sure they know that. Like, don't go up to the drive-through to get your coffee and just pay and be like, oh, like, I get it. You might have had a really shit day, right? Where something really bad's happened, and you're really not, like you were saying earlier, you shouldn't be out in the car behind the wheel. You feel like you feel a little bit, like I need to maybe just be with myself at home and not really interact with the world right now because I'm just feeling a little bit fragile
Mm,
and a little bit, out of sorts, and I just need to ground.
mm,
Because I think this links into that. It's like if I'm not grounded, if I'm not present, it all links into the same thing. If
yeah.
I'm not present, right? If I'm not grounded in myself, if I don't have this really strong sense of connection to myself, how on earth can I have it with other people? So I'm going to be the twat, and I have been that twat. No, actually, have I ever been that twat? I don't think. I think no matter how much of a twat I used to be, I always used to be the person. I'd always make sure someone felt like, honestly, I know that it's that's in my nature, and I think it's in a lot of people's nature. But we just disconnect from it. Now, I was disconnected in many ways.
Hmm.
I was disconnected. My moral compass really started to spin. That true north is almost like it had broken. I broke my moral compass because I was ultimately at the root cause, right, everyone, at the root cause of my inconsideration and selfishness was I was hurt. I was I was in pain. I
Mm,
was suffering greatly, right? Now some of that was self-inflicted, right? But there were some wounds there, early life wounds that just caused me to feel very hurt, right?
hmm.
And I was in pain, right? Emotional pain, mental torment, because I punished myself with all of those thoughts, negative thoughts, self-critical, self-sabotage, all that stuff, right? So hypersensitive,
Yeah.
right? I was hypersensitive and hypercritical. Covered that last week. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. Um, it all ties in, people. Everything ties in, right? There's a lot of dots that we join. It all points to the same thing,
Yeah.
right? Why? Right? So I'm in a lot of pain. Now although I was disconnected from that sense of self and my authenticity and my moral compass was pointing freaking south, you
Hmm.
know, um, I didn't want it to. That's why I hid in a chemical romance to self-medicate to numb that,
Yeah.
right? So and I acted out in many ways to numb that, right? And that's where that frustration and all the bad stuff sort of, it's just, oh, how can you be happy when you feel like that, when you've got that sort of heavy weight of knowing that you're not pointing to your true north, and you know you should be and you could be, but you're not. Right. Anyway, I was disconnected, but throughout all of that, I put on a brave face. I'm fine. If you ask me, I'm fine. And I'd always make sure that someone knew that I was acknowledging them, unless I was being a real bastard that day and I had whatever reason going on for me. Now, I relate to other people when, I said earlier, fuckers, when the sort of people that go in, in a shop or whatever, and you're behind them in the queue and they're just being really, arrogant and not
Mm,
very nice. They're not seeing the person who's, it's almost like they're beneath them. They're just there to serve that person
yeah.
because that's what they're there to do. And they don't have any reason to be nice to them and smile and acknowledge them and make them feel like they've got value because they bloody well have.
Mm,
Right? They're being of service to us. Right? So recognize people, any younger people out there listening. It's really important. Fake it till you make it. If you don't feel like you want to like people, or you don't feel that you can be asked to make the effort to smile and to look people in the eye and make them acknowledge that you are seeing them and acknowledging them, that unconditional consideration to recognize your fellow human is a wonderful gift. And if we
hmm
could all do that, you would feel good because you'd feel that connection with the other. And it would also make you feel more connected to your true nature.
hmm What what I'm wondering after what you just said is, when did you become considerate of yourself? Like you're saying, and I uh totally get what you're saying, in that I feel like I did the same. Like I know that all throughout my life I feel like I have been well, I've been considerate of others externally. I like to meet people, and I like to know people, and I like to make them feel seen. I know there'll be a number of people who feel like I've treated them badly. So when I say I've been considerate of others, I know there's lots of relationships that I've had where I've been uh, a terrible human being. So, but I wasn't considerate of me, in that I wasn't aware that I was hypersensitive, or I had anything playing out inside subconsciously that was causing me to do and act in a certain way. So I
Mm.
guess that's my question to you after listening to what you said: is when did you become considerate of yourself? When did you consider, actually, there might be some stuff happening underneath, or were you always aware of that?
That's a really good question, man. Thank you for um, pinning that on me. Um, okay, excuse me. Um, I think I always felt this sense of dis-ease is the most, you know, obvious term to use, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
common one. I'm going to use it. I always felt that I had this um, sense of disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a young person, of course, how on earth can I understand that,
Mm-hmm.
process it, articulate it? Um, I just carried around a sense that there was something really off with my experience. That's it. It's the best way I can put it. It felt like there was something not quite right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried that sense right through into my 30s until at the age of 34 in 2009. I got to a point where I wanted to you know, not be here anymore. And
Mhm.
how many times anyone that knows me and has listened to what I talk about or what I've written about, whatever, you'll know that it's not a revelation. I'm just saying for the first time,
Mhm.
you know, and that sense that something ain't quite right. That's all it is. Simplest way of putting it. There's just something not quite right,
Mhm.
right? That was there throughout that whole, literally since I can remember from a very young age. I endeavored to make sense of it, to live with it, you know, to the best of my ability, just to try and regulate and maybe not feel that. And at moments, and I did have many, many moments, it went away. Now, there's loads of ways of doing that, loads of ways. So that's where certain behaviors came into play
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
from a very, and we're amazing human beings. We're very gifted. We're extremely resilient and resourceful and adaptful, us humans, creative.
Mm.
We have the means to be able to go to any lengths to remain in that sort of juxtaposition of like, I feel there's something off, but I'm going to do my damn best to ignore it and desensitize myself to it and not feel it.
Mhm.
So I'm going to chase some stuff around in life to kick that can down the street a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that can fucking hit me slap bang on the bridge of the nose at 34 and sparkled me to my fucking ass.
Mhm.
And it had done, on occasion. As you know my story better than anyone,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, so I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's like at the age of 34, I was at a junction. I always say this, I was at a crossroads.
Mhm.
I can't go on like this, man. I'm
Yep.
done. I don't want to be here anymore if this is what I got to do for us, man. I'm tired of kicking that can down the street, man.
Mhm.
I'm tired. I'm tired. Tired. I'm exhausted. I'm done. So, I saw a flash of lightning, thunder, thunderbolts and lightning. The clouds parted in the sky, and I had an epiphany through that whole, the rock bottom, as the common term, the rock bottom. I was at the bottom of my bottom of my bottom, and suddenly I had an epiphany, and I don't want to go into it because I ain't got time, but um, that's when things started to change. And I started to that self abandonment that I just described. What I just talked everyone through, it to me is I abandoned myself. Right now, I'd felt some abandonment in my life anyway. So all I was doing was that wheel of suffering, birth, read, birth. I was just giving more birth to the self abandonment. I just kept regurgitating that self abandonment, right? And at 34, I had to step in. My higher self had to step in and go, wait, no, 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 no. You ain't gonna abandon yourself no more, bro. No, 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 no. I'm here for you now. Let's do this. Come on. Let's step into it. Let's get back to our true north. Let's reconnect and let's have some consideration for yourself now.
Mm.
Yeah. And let's look after shit. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really powerful. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's I wonder about those people that are so inconsiderate of others. Are they even aware that they're doing that, because what that says to me is you are hurting. You are hurting so badly that you are treating other people this way.
Mm,
And it's interesting for me that I think both you and I were desperate to be seen and heard by other people, in a sense that we were. I don't think I ever abandoned other people. I don't think I ever abandoned that idea that I wasn't going to be considerate of other people's feelings,
mm,
apart from apart from my romantic relationships, which I could just never handle because I just wasn't mature enough, or aware of my own things. I have one of a, like there's so much stuff that was going
mm,
on for me that I was just completely unaware of, which made me completely inconsiderate of,
mm,
like, this bloke in this film that I started talking about at the moment.
mm,
At the beginning, it was like it's just I cannot. I'm so desperate to have this thing that I'm gonna not consider anything around it. I'm not going to consider how I feel. I'm not going to see how the other person feels. I'm not going to look at the actual practicalities of it, and think about, well, actually, this would be the healthier thing to do. Actually, sit and work out where I am and who I
mm,
am, because for so long that just wasn't on my radar. It was about just surviving and trying to be like everyone else.
mm,
And I definitely feel that my interactions with the world, as long as it didn't become romantic, was about hoping that someone else would see me. And I think probably in my romantic relationships as well, actually, it was hoping that that person would see me and fix me.
mm, mm.
But I wasn't considerate of that. I wasn't aware of that. And yeah, it took a rock bottom. It took a crash. It took a, actually, I'm going to fall off this world for a period of time for me to go, oh, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I find it quite, not sad, but I find it difficult that that's where we need to get to work out, actually, this is the better way to live. That there has to be a roll bottom.
I mean, it helps.
Yeah,
It does. It helps.
yeah,
When I'm working with the young Mavericks, it's like it's really easy to establish where they're at with that.
mm-hmm.
Now, getting back to the scapegoat thing, sometimes maybe the parents had the rock bottom,
Yeah,
and they've had enough,
mm-hmm.
and maybe they're the one that's hit the rock bottom, and the young Mavericks just getting going.
Mm.
But his behavior is so bad and inconsiderate and selfish that it becomes intolerable. And I really empathize with parents, but I really empathize with the young Maverick because, in a way, how can you be considerate to someone that's been inconsiderate?
Yeah,
You know, like how, right? So we've covered compassion and empathy and all that stuff. Yeah, but how can you, when you hit a rock bottom? I I talk for myself. When I hit my rock bottom, I was done. I can't be considerate to my inconsiderateness anymore, if that's the right way of putting it. I'm done. I've had enough, you know? So, I was that compassion that this sort of like, and I'm going to use some narrative now, right? So, my ego, right, which was running the show,
mm-hmm.
because this is the bottom line for everyone, in my opinion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Go and study some ancient teachings and learn to meditate, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Right? The ego, the monkey mind, the ego. Call it. Some people would love to call it the addict mind.
mm-hmm.
Whatever. The ego. It's the ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
This false sense of self, which is normally amplified because of some core emotions that are fucking driving it. Fear, insecurity, suffering, pain, sorrow, whatever, right? That ego, right, is an inconsiderate, selfish little fucker,
Hmm.
not just outwardly towards other people, t- directed at us.
Hmm.
My ego wanted me on the floor eating shit on a daily basis, right? So we've got to learn. That's that is basically at the core of it, in my opinion. So we've got to acknowledge it, to observe. And this is where thoughtfulness, mindfulness, awareness, presence, being grounded, connected to reality, to our truth. Get rid of denial. Denial is the ego's favorite strategy. It will place every single reason there. It will be very cunning and it will coerce and manipulate us into thinking that there's not an issue. It will tell us there is not a problem.
You know the denial anacronym, don't you?
Deflection, deflection.
Don't even know I am lying.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then, and like, without getting into it, but how many displays of that are going on publicly at the moment? Do you know what I mean? So, that ego's rampant, man. It doesn't want you facing true north. It doesn't want you, to fuck it off. The ego wants to play, man. It wants to. It's had its way for so long, and we've allowed it to have sit on the throne and have the hot seat in our lives unless you've learned how to eradicate that and to to not allow it to talk you into doing all these things that are inconsiderate and selfish and unskillful and unhealthy towards yourself and other people. All right, so this is just the way I see it.
Yeah.
I've lived with that ego mindset, and it mutated in many forms, addiction and all that. Ego loves desire. It
Hmm.
feeds on that shit all day long, man. Anything that's moving seems attractive to us, we're gonna fucking pounce on that shit all day long, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've got a lot of years. I've got a lot of years of experience knowing what it's like to be in that mindset. And like I say, if you was listening, at 34, bang, I was like, fucking hell, and since then, for many years, I've been studying that ego mind, through meditation. Always comes back to that, man. We need to ground in the present moment because when we're in the present moment, the ego kind of dissolves quite a lot. It reinforces itself first. You know that. You
Yeah,
did that 10-day retreat. What
yeah, yeah.
what day did you manage to get on top of that ego? Because you probably sat with that ego for the first probably 5 days, 4 days.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The first 2, 3 days was about, yeah, just doing very simple breathing and just being very conscious of the breath before you even started to go and try and go anywhere deeper. It was, yeah, it was quite a journey.
Mm.
I mean, I guess what I'm thinking about now is do we all have to hit a rock bottom? And obviously we don't, because not everyone in life is crashing. But why is it that some people do to 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 need to rise back up and to find their truth? And then there's other people that just sort of manage a sort of equilibrium in the middle rather than this huge sort of spikes of up and down. And I guess I'm trying to also think about that in relation to being a teenager and that rebellion. I'm going to push the boundaries here. I'm going to see what I can get away with. I'm going to see what I can put in my body that's going to do whatever it's going to do. And why some people are driven to that, and that need to sort of really punish themselves in a way, not be considerate of who they are, whereas other people feel that it's okay just to have a, I don't know, a dabble, and then they come out and then suddenly they're in their 20s and they're working as an accountant and everything's cool and dandy, and they've got a wife and kids, and
Yeah.
they don't they
Well,
don't think about those things. I
well,
don't know.
firstly, I'm not going to knock that
No, 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 no. I wish.
because and I know you're not, but I'm just statement for me, disclaimer. I'm
Mm,
not going to knock that path, that journey if anyone's on that, because that's great, right?
yeah, there's
But
a calmness to it.
yeah,
There's an ease to it,
yeah, yeah,
and I'm wondering whether there is that, there's just a consideration of themselves, and it's like I'm
yeah.
okay.
But I was going to say, but there's always a but. Um, or is there? In this occasion, I was going to say, but I wouldn't want that life.
Okay.
I wouldn't want it.
Uh-huh.
It's too vanilla.
It's not Neapolitan.
I want a chocolate chip, choc chip experience. You know, I feel like life is about, and this is a common one, the hero's journey,
Hmm.
as they say, right? Isn't it wonderful to go to hell and then this sounds, bear with me, right?
Okay.
To be able to, there's a saying, I read it somewhere, I can't remember what it is, but I'm trying to sort of just say it in my own words. Isn't it wonderful to go to hell and just keep going and to leave
Yep.
and to have that experience, to know that you don't want to ever go back there, right?
Yeah.
And to know it, to not go through life fearing it, like to have an experience, to get it out of the way. I'm glad I did it this way round, because I'm suspicious of the people that just sort of cruise on cruise control through life, and there's no real, just it is to me, and please forgive me if you're one of these people when I use the term vanilla, but it's very sort of just, and vanilla's yummy. I like vanilla, right? I'm just covering myself right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, I'm suspicious, man.
You're
Maybe all, mate, I'm suspicious of it. Maybe there is some mad stuff going on, but it's all just in their head. Or maybe we don't know what happens behind closed doors. Or maybe they're the person that it all falls apart in later life when they've retired and they think they've just had this amazing life, and then they retire and then they're sitting in their own, the hell of their mind, or the hell of their sort of, look, I'm purely speculating. This isn't based on anything that is confounded. I'm just throwing it out there.
do you think do
I personally would rather have this, because I'm biased because it's how my life has played
Yeah, I was
out.
about, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like I think we both have craved extremism in terms of experience. I think
Yeah.
there is a need in some people to have quite intense uh, experiences, and
Mm.
I wonder whether those were. I know I created lots of intense experiences to not be considerate of myself. I wasn't aware of what I was doing.
Mhm.
I was using those experiences to cover up and and not spend time with myself. And it's
Mm.
not even as far as meditating, it's literally I'm fearful of being on my own, because what is going to happen, what I can't, when I'm just on my own, sitting on the sofa, what I need someone else to be there,
Mm.
so that I don't have to then sit with myself. And I think that is that's at the crux of what I did a lot in my life.
Can I ask you
Hmm.
why?
I don't think I've ever been that comfortable with myself. I don't think I've ever liked myself particularly.
Can I ask you why?
Um, I just don't think I've ever had a very strong sense of self. I, when you talked earlier about that sort of unease, I've always had that sense of unease in terms of I can be at the busiest party in the world and I
Mm.
still feel like I'm on my own, still feel like I'm a bit of an outsider, but I don't really fit. And I feel that, yeah, it's a real conundrum in that I really want to be seen and heard, but I'm really uncomfortable if someone sees me. Like if someone actually sees me and wants to be close and wants to really know me, then I will start to get uncomfortable with that. I'll start to be the static cat.
Okay, so now I'm. Thank you for sharing that. I relate, right?
Mm,
Um, do you can you pinpoint? And it's hard because it's childhood.
mm,
Can you place, you know, um, a time frame? Because something really useful, and this is really old school. It's an old school method, but I loved it when I first started doing this whole journey. I had a really amazing counselor.
mm-hmm,
I was starting to do support groups. I got off of, got sober, became really present, started to become really healthy in my body, my physical body. Emotionally, I was still, trying to figure shit out. Had a lot to learn, still a lot of growth to do, and that continues day at a time. And I saw this counselor um, for the first time in my life. I started to see a counselor. And she was amazing, and she was really great. She got this really big. You probably haven't been to school, like a big role. I really encourage anyone to do this, right? And it's a very personal. Maybe do it with someone like a counselor, or do it with someone that you trust, or do it on your own. But it's a very sacred thing to do, and it's a really enlightening thing to do. She had this big roll of paper and some marker pens, and we rolled it out the length of the room, and she got me to do a line, like a long line, and that
not,
was
not one of those lines. Not
no,
no,
yeah,
no, no. Okay, yeah.
not one of them, right? That would have been a bit weird, wouldn't it? She got me
Would
to
have
do
been.
it. She got me to this long line, the length of the room, and with a black marker pen, right? And I had all these coloured marker pens. Now that black line running the whole length of that long bit of paper that was on a roll
Hmm.
was my lifeline from birth to present day.
Hmm.
And then she got me through our sessions. She kept that role, and every session, it was amazing. It was such a great thing to do. I think for younger people, especially, because it's
Hmm.
like you're using marker pens, and and we talked through the timeline, and it was a really good introduction of me being able to sort of place events and things that happen throughout my life, starting from you know when I came out of space and landed on planet Earth,
Hmm.
because I always felt like you, a little bit displaced and like an alien, right?
Hmm.
It's like, who are all these people? Where am
Hmm.
I? This feels a bit weird. Anyway, it was really amazing. So sorry, I just wanted to ask you, with that in mind, where would you place on that roll of paper on your own timeline, lifeline, when you started to recognize, did you ever feel a sense of like, yeah, this is when? I mean, anyone that's listening, maybe you can reflect on that as well, if you relate.
When did I feel conscious? or when did I feel that
Well,
something wasn't right? Or
let's rewind to when you first sort of maybe it wasn't a conscious thing. Like I said, I don't think I was. It wasn't like a strong connection of consciousness. It just there was this underlying sense that something wasn't right.
Hmm,
And for me, that was definitely around about the age of 5.
wow, I don't think I'm that conscious of my childhood. There is a there are lots and lots of gaps. So for me, I think I thought I was fine till a lot older. I knew like the anxieties, I knew the sense of unease, I knew all that, but I kind of just thought I'm a bit odd. And I think it wasn't probably until my late 30s when I started to really get into therapy. And I met this incredible therapist who just sort of unpicked all these things and showed me stuff that I wasn't conscious of.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and there were a number of things that suddenly totally reframed my world and totally reframed my idea of who I was. Um, and I would say that would be more of my journey. I think I always felt awkward. I always felt different. I always felt a little bit odd, but I wasn't yeah, I don't know. I don't
Mm.
I think there was more yeah, there was more of an understanding of my life from late 30s onwards. But up to that point it was always just a general anxiety.
So that roll of paper
Yeah.
with your lifeline, it's just you can just put anxiety
Hmm.
from like birth to 30s, early 30s when you started to
Yeah,
reconnect.
I would have to really start. I mean, the moments I remember, like memories and stuff of when I was a kid. Uh, yeah, a lot of it is feeling displaced,
Mm.
is feeling
Mm.
like I'm in my own world. I think I was very good. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
both children of Star Wars, so I mean, I was lost in space.
Lit-
Literally,
literally.
I would just be in my room
Yeah,
with my Star Wars figures
yeah, yeah,
and just I would just create. To be honest, that's what I started drawing really early, and
yeah, yeah.
that's what I would do. I'd just go and draw, and I know as a kid I had loads of like fantasy worlds, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that's where I disappeared into. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
I don't know there was a moment that I would put.
okay. The reason I feel I feel more connected to that, what I just, and
Mm,
why I was asking you, because it's just out of interest,
mm,
I hope I didn't make you feel uncomfortable by having to reflect on that. But is because you know me, I've been into thousands of schools.
yeah.
I've just I've had to really go into that part of my life. I've really had to go back to that part of my life to talk to young people to say, this is where it started. This is why, and this is, what happened with that and da 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 da. So I just know that part, and obviously because I wrote my whole journey in
Mm,
book form, of course, I know it probably, you know, I don't want to say too much. Or too well, but I know it really well, and it's for me, it's been really cathartic and really healing to really, not have to. It's not like I'm saying to everyone you got to go down a rabbit hole into your childhood because it could be really painful. And of course, mine, it wasn't all groovy, man. It wasn't all bad either, but I think it's something really, um, really beautiful about just the more we understand that part, the more we can process. The more we understand about anything, the more we can
Yeah,
process. The more we can process, the more we can understand. You know, it's that whole thing, isn't it?
yeah,
It's like, and the more we understand, the more we can process, the more we can just find acceptance.
yeah,
And the more we can find acceptance, the more we can bring into our being and into our lives things like forgiveness, compassion, kindness, generosity, consideration.
yeah. So do you think there's a like there was a like you've talked about the epiphany moment at 34 when everything was like I got to sort this out.
Aha! I need to sort my shizzle out.
Do you think there was an epiphany moment as younger than that where you were like, oh, I'm different? Is there like when you've done that work and do you see a point as a kid where you went, yeah, I'm a little bit different here,
Yeah, I've got this memory, right, of sitting Tron,
right?
the original Tron film.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was these I always felt that I was put around someone's house
Mm-hmm.
by my mum. My memories are my mum put me around to like play dates, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like mums do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not putting me there and going right, you can bloody go there. See you later. I'm off.
Mm-hmm.
She was. It wasn't that. It was like my mum was doing what any mum would do and encouraging me to go and do play dates
Right.
to be with people because I feel that if she didn't encourage me to do that, I would have been like you, lost in fantasy in my own mind, in my own world, isolating in my bedroom
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, right? And I used to have the memories 100% of me just riding my bike around the estate or along the street. And then skateboarding was just amazing when that came in. But I used to enjoy being in my own space because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the little alien that had landed and I just needed to find my odd squad. My my fellow, not Earthlings, not fellow Earthlings, my fellow space cadets.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's no surprise that I actually manifested that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, right. So play dates. I'm around people's houses, from a young age. Now Tron came out, the original film. I don't know when it came out, but I remember being at someone's house and that was on. It was on a TV, and I think back then people had like the videos were coming out. We didn't have a video player, um, and so it was really great to go around other people's houses and watch. It was normally a pirate copy from the ice cream van. What does that say? What year is that?
1982.
Right, so I was 7,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, there was an ice cream van man that used to sell pirate videos, cigarettes, porn mags, anything you could get your hands on, I'm sure our local ice cream van man could get it.
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, he was proper dodgy. And anyway, so I used to sit around on these play dates and I'd be the kid that would be on wherever I'm sitting in the room and I'm just sort of I vividly remember this. I would be just sort of like, it's almost like hiding under my, like metaphorically speaking, I'm pulling my jumper up or my t-shirt, whatever I'm wearing, sort of over my face, covering my mouth and my nose. So my eyes are just sort of peeking over, like as if I'm hiding under a duvet, like you've said before. Like we all just want to hide under the duvet.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it felt for me when I was this introverted little dude, little space cadet, right? Going around to these other environments that felt really barren to me
Yeah.
and volatile. I didn't feel comfortable in that. I used to, metaphorically speaking, be the dude with, hiding, just peeking on over the, you know, and I remember watching Tron. And I remember looking around thinking, "Eek, I don't know what to do here. What do I do?" Like I just sit here and watch the film, do I? Am I meant to talk to people? Honestly, I do remember that. That's how I used to interact. Yeah. Um, so I remember that. So that's
Mm.
definitely something that's prevalent in my memory. And it's no surprise that, I started to learn how do we go into as an adult? How do we, how do we go into the school environment? How do we go into the workplace? How do we go into life without wearing that mask?
Mm.
How do we do that? Well, I know how I did it, and we haven't really got time to go into it, but I mean, God, I think people know how I did it, and it's like, so yeah, for me, it's all about learning. This is what we're doing. It's all about learning. Because for me, consideration, inconsideration, I guess the opposing experience of inconsideration and selfishness and self abandonment, or abandonment of the right thing and being inconsiderate and selfish, uh, the skillful, more conscious, healthy expression of that, of being human, would be um, kind,
Mm-hmm.
considerate, obviously, um, present,
Understanding. Yeah. Present.
present,
Mm.
because understanding. Yeah, there is a level of, we need to, who are we? It always comes to this. Who am I? How can I be considerate to others if I don't know how to express that towards myself?
Yep.
And what's at the core of that? And why do I struggle with it?
Yep.
Why am I sitting in life, metaphorically speaking, hiding under the duvet, peeking over the top, thinking, where do I fit into all this and how can I function? And if you anything like me, if you feel fearful of life and the situations, then you're gonna be selfish, because
Mm.
our fear will make us do things that we don't care about anyone else. We just got to. With all we can think about is what my needs are at this point in time. At any given point in time, if I'm fearful, then I'm just gonna. There's a control to that.
Mm.
I have to make sure that I do X, Y, and Z as if my life depends on it, because it does. That's how I feel.
Yep.
I'm talking past tense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's really important and what I'm hearing from you is understanding your own story. And I do mean that literally. Like, you have done the work in terms of writing the book. You've done the work in terms of, the therapy and exploring, literally from the moment you crash landed in this world to now.
Mm,
And you have a very strong sense then of your narrative,
mm,
and where and how that's unfolded, and where you're at now. And I think it takes people time, and sometimes they never fully understand their story, and sometimes they don't even look. But I
mm,
think it's really important to know your own story. And I also think, when we are talking about consideration or being inconsiderate, but more about consideration, and how we have lived our lives, I am always fascinated by other people's stories.
mm.
And I like to hear other people's stories and where they've come from. And yeah, for me, that is real, sort of genuine interest in life, and
Yeah,
being considerate is, like, I want to know your story.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and then part of that, I think for a large part of my life, part of that fascination was because I wasn't quite sure about my own.
yeah, yeah,
And it's only now, I think, in recent years, where I'm starting to work out the structure of it.
yeah,
But there's still a lot of blanks, as you just, as we were exploring. I still think,
yeah,
for me, there's a lot of stuff I'm like, not quite sure about that.
yeah. And I love what you just said. And that's story I shared about sitting, Tron
Mm.
at the play date. That there's millions of those. I just picked
Mm.
that one out right now. For me, there's certain methods of self-development where it's encouraged to write your life story, right? I
Mm.
know in America there's a lot of treatment centers when they do they treat people for, traditionally things like, addiction and all that sort of stuff. A step one, as we know it, and it's, step one in the world of treatment of addiction, alcohol, and all that stuff, is part of the program. You can't continue that process unless you do a really good step one.
Mm.
Step one is just acknowledging and admitting that there's a problem in layman's terms, right? And my step one came at 34.
Mm.
And my process, my journey of healing and self-discovery and self-development and being liberated from all that fear and all those baseline negative, unskillful, unhealthy behaviors that I was displaying to myself and other people could not begin until I did the step one.
Mm.
And it's encouraged in, like I was saying, over in America, it's quite big in other parts of the world, but especially America, to write your life story as a step
Yeah.
one, right? So for me, I did a really thorough step one, but then that led to me actually writing my book. Now, I don't want to promote my book on this. I'm not into that stuff, but it is a resource. So I'm gonna just only on this occasion put a link in the description to that. And it's not to make money, it's not to promote it, it's because it's a resource. It's backing up what we're talking about, right? Now, if anyone can be asked to to lean into what we're talking about and it resonates and you want to know more, what I'm saying is I'm not trying to encourage people to read my book, my journey. I'm trying to encourage people to do their own,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I'm saying. But I'm going to put a link in it because even if you need to, for me, I read other people's step one life book, if you want to call it that.
Mm.
The how have you got to this point?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of am drip feeding. This is what we're doing in TVR. We're drip feeding our own experience, right? But if you really want to know the whole journey, then yeah, like for me, I read other people's hero's journey
Yeah.
to inspire me, to enable me to. It gave me some sort of sense that it is possible, that I can do it, that I have got my own story. Everyone's got a story. We've all got one, right? Whether you're a parent listening, you've got one, and your loved ones, we've all got one, right? And my understanding of this is, I think it's the Native American Indians, right? I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they say to the elders say to the young people, you can only come to me 4 times. I may be wrong in saying that, but you can only come to me 4 times with anything that you've got a problem with. After the fourth time that we're talking about the same thing, we're not talking about it anymore.
Okay.
Now, I may be wrong in saying that, so please forgive me if I've got that wrong, because I don't mean to, um, disrespect that there's something that's very sacred, right? But I think there's something about that's what happens. They've got the elders, and this is where I drew a lot from that because it's really good. It's not about for the rest of your life going into your childhood and having to, and to completely, absorb yourself in something that's already happened. Because some people say we should never go back there, just look forward, being in the present and go forward.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got relevance to process, to understand, to accept, to get forgiveness, to let go of that part of your life. We need to be aware of it.
Mm.
We need to lean into it, in my opinion, to take the power out of it so we can be liberated from it. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to go there. And and the way that I've done it is I really went from day dot and sort of just went on this trajectory through counseling, through my other methods that I've done. And of course, writing a book is the best way to really go on that journey,
Mm.
and it's a beautiful thing, and the best thing to come out of that is you can help other people with it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
encourage everyone. I encourage everyone. Everyone's got that. Go and write your own story, but first you gotta make peace with it.
Mm.
You've got to be, but otherwise you're going to be just writing from anger
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sadness. Anyway, that's just what I think.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's really good. That really resonates. I think that's a really nice place to stop,
Okay.
because I think we've done quite a lot today.
That's a very considerate observation, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you. I try to be considerate. It's my new thing. How was that for you? Was that good?
Yeah, deep. I always feel like, we start off in a really lazy kind of like, say it's like a Sunday morning, because I know these are going out on Sunday morning, and it's like Sunday brunch vibes. We start off and it's all very sort of like, yeah, vibey, and by the end of it, I feel like we've just I don't know, taken on the world.
Excavated some shit. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always really, for me. Look, I'm well versed as you are with talking in this way, and going there in this way. So you know, I really just hope that people can take what they need and leave the rest. But I feel like um, it's always just really, really cathartic to me to do this and collaborate in this way. Wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
it's
it went well. Yeah.
yeah. I really like today, as ever. Always leaves me with a healthy glow, feeling warm.
Your chocolate. I can't say. Why can I not say this?
mint choc chip.
Mint choc chip chill feeling. All right then. So until the next one, and I'm on the next one, and oh, I've just had a little cheeky look without meaning to.
At the J's.
Yeah.
Episode 10, have we reached double figures on the next one?
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant.
Okay, Mr. Rice.
All right.
Yeah. Until the next one.
Have a great day. Yeah, and speak soon. Cheers.
And you. See you later.
Take care.
Bye now.